guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I put together a list this morning that I thought would be positive, good vibes, good energy, put out there, help as many people as possible, get as many people prepared as possible, and ideally get more towards my end goal, which is I want to see like a renaissance. That's genuinely what I want to see. And I think it's possible. I think that they're like we're kind of like in between these two paths here. We're going to a very dark new world, like a very, very controlled top-down world, or we're moving to a super decentralized world of abundance and creativity. I think that latter is more likely to win, but there's going to be some hiccups in the middle. So if you guys have never read the book, The Fourth Turning, I will link to it down below. There's also a book list down below, like all the books that I've read recently, or like I just recommend. If you want to go on Amazon and buy one of them, it supports the channel. I think a couple cents comes on those guys. But like, The Fourth Turning is a must-read book, and I've listened to it. I've got the audio version, and I listen to it probably every 2 months. Which is weird because I don't rewatch movies unless it's Top Gun, and I don't reread books unless it's like really a top rated book for me, like personally. But The Fourth Turning, there's so much juice in that book that I think it's required reading for everyone. Like if I was teaching high school or something right now, like all of my students would be reading The Fourth Turning. It is so unbelievably relevant. Just to give you like a little hint on it, like it was published in 1997, which means that these authors were putting together earlier than that, and it starts with the CDC announces a new communicable virus 2020. That's like the first like 3 paragraphs of that book, and then from there you're hooked on for like 200 pages because it is so key. But when you're in a fourth turning, you tend to go through like a long cycle. Like it only occurs once in a centennial, like a century or a long lifespan. And so we are going through a fourth turning. All of the people who have previously gone through a fourth turning have since perished. This is like your Great Depression, World War II, Roaring 20s. Like those people that were around for that have literally checked out. And so now it's like you've got to somewhat repeat history, because what we learn from history is that no one learns from history. And so we're at this spot where like hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. We're in the weak men create hard times thing. And so we can sit here on the internet and we can bitch about that, or we can like think through it and be like, okay, well, what's going to help us as a society become as prosperous as possible with as little downside? Here's a list I put together on it. You've got to move to a good locale. If you're not sitting in a good spot, i.e., I don't know, maybe you're sitting in like Toronto. I was in Toronto a couple summers ago. It's a beautiful place. It's expensive. It doesn't seem like the Canadian government's a place I want to be around too much. Maybe I'm looking to get out of there. Okay, now I know that uprooting and going to a whole nother country is a big step. So if you're in the States, you know, like if I'm in like New York, I'm getting out, right? Like if I'm in New Jersey, I'm looking at like Tennessee, Florida, Texas. Like I'm looking at anywhere that there's not a state income tax. I'm looking at a place that has good agriculture, so places that were like prosperous 100 years ago, where there's a lot of abundance. I want to get there. And then when I get there, I want to meet a good group of people. That might be joining like a dojo, a gym, any of that type of stuff. Like wherever I think that like really like people that are very intentional to life, that happen to life, that don't allow life to happen to them, that I want to be around those people, and I want to build a good tribe. I'm in Southwest Florida, and so it's a pretty good spot. I'm building a good tribe. A lot of people are actually moving here. A lot of my buddies that I met in the last decade through, like I lived in DC for a while, and like, so a lot of those guys are actually like, you know, we've reconnected in the last 2 years, where like when things started getting crazy, people are like, yo, where do we go? And I'm like, Florida's a good spot. And a lot of them started coming. And so I've been actively working on that tribe, and then kind of disassociating with some of the old people I associated with several years ago, that like after we went through the 2020 thing, you kind of saw people's viewpoints on things, and there were people where I was like, I just don't want to be around these people because they're clear liabilities. I got no interest in being around them. So be around a good group of people with a good mixed skill set. Like I want to be around people that are good with like data and analytics. I want to be people that are good with agriculture, farming, tractors, flying airplanes, like working on cars. Like I want a whole list of those type of people in my group. So that would be like, you know, and then your geographic location there is gonna matter. So like number one, move to a good locale and your physicality of to where you are. Two, personal sovereignty. Like once you're in that spot where you're like, okay, I can do life here. And if I'm a young dude, I'm a young single dude, honestly, the van life thing is a really good way to go. Myself, I've got a family. I've always wanted to do the sailing thing for like a long time. I've got a young kid. So as she gets older, it kind of makes it more reasonable, but like adding a sailboat to like my personal balance sheet is something I am definitely doing, and I'm doing sooner rather than later. It's not happening this year, but it is something that is definitely happening in the 20s, because I think it gives you just that optionality where you can have it, you can fly out to it, you can keep it in different spots, you can Airbnb it. Like I think that's interesting. Personal sovereignty is like the next big part of this that I thought through, and that is like your health and your mindset. Kind of hit me like financial prepper Chris Taylor. He kind of really got me into like being conscious of fitness, because like once I turned 30, it was just that you can't drink beer and eat like crap. It just sticks to you. And so I kind of was like watching some of my videos, and I'm like, I'm not feeling it like health wise. I'm not like liking it. So in the last, I guess like 30 days, I've gotten like really serious about it, and I'm down like 14 pounds. So I've still got like another 20 to go to like where I want to be, but I want to get in like fighting shape, like I want to get in like, why not? Like why? Like Chris got this quote. He's like, why don't you get ripped? Like, don't you want to get ripped? Like at one point in time in your life, don't you want to be like, oh yeah, man, I got ripped? Like, and I was like, yeah, it's never going to be easier for me than like today. I'm not going to wait till my 40s or 50s or 60s to do it. So it's like, I'm going to do it now. So health and mindset, which for me was like deleting my Instagram newsfeed. Like I don't have one. I don't follow a lot of people. I DM with a lot of people on there. I don't have a Facebook. I don't have a Snapchat. I don't have any of that stuff. So it's like the stuff I take in. I listen to some negative stuff. In a way, it's sort of like I like Adapt 2030 is about as negative as I listen to, because I think that David Budina has like a really good. He's got a really good program, I think, and I really learned a lot from him. But like I'm really conscious about the crap I take in. Like I'm not taking in like these channels of like everything is collapsing. It's like, yeah, I mean it kind of is, but good point. But like what can we do about it? What are the positive things? Eliminate all debts and commitments. If you can get rid of anything that you have a commitment to in the future, I think in like an uncertain time, particularly your fourth turnings in America have never not been correlated with wars. So I think that's really important. Like Civil War, Revolutionary War, World War II, World War I is really World War II is really an extension of World War I. It was really just a long emergency, like that whole freight. From World War I, the Great Depression. I mean, you got the Roaring '20s in between, but like that whole chunk of time really is just one long emergency, and that generation has died off, and now we're kind of repeating history. But like getting rid of any commitments, any debts, I would just be doing that immediately. In my own personal life, I've pretty much been doing that for like since 2016, and like immediately happier on a lot of stuff. Now I still have like I've got, I don't know, I still have process to like become like completely out of the system, but like I have very little commitments, like almost no commitments, and I think that is like, I think that's key. It gives you a lot of optionality. That's all I'm putting out on that. Become your own central bank. I think this is so key. Like 10 to maybe more percentage of your net worth, particularly your liquid net worth, but of your net worth, in my opinion, honestly, should be held in gold or silver. I think silver is a good way to get into gold. I'll have other videos on that. I'm creating a whole nother channel. It's going to be a finance channel. But the gold to silver ratio is so out of whack that if you look at it historically, if you look at it with how much of it actually exists in the Earth's crust, what is the mining ratio? What is the paper ratio? Silver is 10 times undervalued relative to gold. I think that you can buy silver and then flip it into gold. And then fourth turnings are always marked with a gold to Dow ratio of 1-to-1. I'll have videos on that. But essentially you can trade your gold for the Dow when times move on. which is a massive, massive wealth transfer. For 5,000 years, we have used gold, silver, and copper as money. For 50 years, we have not. The average dude, the average central banker, the average politician believes that that is like a barbaric relic, and that like the gold standards are never coming back. It's because it would constrain their power, and they wouldn't allow them to have endless wars and all the things that they do. I think that over this decade, we will return back to a sound money standard. Crypto could play a big role in this, so I think that you need to be watching what's going on with Bitcoin, not just dismissing it, watching what's going on with Monero, not just dismissing it, but I would be looking at those things. I think that it probably bubbled pretty heavy. I think it's got to wash people out, but I would be adding those things to my like personal net worth, things that are outside of the system that I can transact with people, particularly if at the end of the year we move into like a digital ration ID card, where it's like, oh, you can get 10 gallons of fuel, but you're gonna need your digital ration ID card. Well, like the guy that has silver, copper, gold, crypto, he's gonna be able to get things, all right? And that's gonna give you a major, major advantage when everyone else is panicking. Also, you have to remember, billions of people alive, particularly in North America, 350 million people, they all think that like the fake dollar is like an actual thing. And so you have a massive, if you beat them, if you front run them, you have a massive advantage. This is why I sell silver and gold, like as a broker in the mornings. My email's below, Trav at OnSiteTrav.com. I would love to sell, help you get into a silver and gold position. If nothing else, just talk to you about it and put together a strategy. You can actually buy it in your Roth IRA. You can take physical possession of it. There's so many things, and the real true financial system of North America is actually a gold and silver standard. I'll have more videos on that. But if you move gold or silver abroad, you're not paying the taxes that you would if you do it with like digital fiat currency. So something to think through. Food production and energy production, I think, are like the ultimate flex. Like if you can produce your own food, and you're gonna kill it. I mean, you're absolutely going to kill it. Just from a barterability standpoint, from a standpoint of like, what's in there. You're not eating crickets from Bill Gates's farm. Like if things get weird, there's toilet paper runs on like, food. There's something you can do there. I would start with like chickens. Like they're the easiest thing to do. It takes them about 6 to 8 months to start producing for eggs if you get them at chicks. You can also meat birds. Like those things are ready in 12 weeks. Little weird butchering your first couple chickens. It's a little weird, I'm not gonna lie, but like it's very doable and it's really rewarding. Permaculture, fruit trees, like whatever grows in your area, I think that you need to look at where you live and be like, how much can I grow? And like I need to move to an area where I can grow a lot of stuff. And energy production. I just had to run the house on a generator, had an energy out type of thing. I can tell you it's very expensive. If I had to do that for an entire month, it would probably cost me about $3 or $4 grand in fuel. That's if fuel was available. It's really not even an option. I lost an entire like refrigerator of stuff. I have 3 refrigerators. I lost one of them because it literally like died on me. It was interesting to see like the amount of food that was just kind of wasted or like lost in that process. But it was kind of cool. Like the next morning I go out and get like 12 eggs out of the chickens. I got like a bucket of tomatoes, a bunch of black raspberries, blackberries, whatever it is. Like it was kind of interesting because I was like, I need a refrigerator, don't get me wrong, but I also have enough production at this point in time where like I can kind of like scrounge around my place and like sustain my family to a certain extent. I think that that's like the ultimate flex would be energy. Like if you can produce your own energy, man, like there's some spots in town. I've got a buddy in Tennessee, he's got like micro hydro set up, which is pretty raw on like a creek. Solar panels are on my list. It's like solar panels, sailboat, like those are two like things. Sailboat with solar panels, like those are two, I think that that's like the ultimate. I don't know if that's like a starting, like do this, get solar panel, like, because when I do the math, I'm building a house particularly, not, I want to say specifically, I can't get it out because I can barely speak English, guys. But like I want to like I designed the house we're building to run on solar. Even still, it's going to cost me like 35 grand depending on my battery array, and that's not like a forever solution. It's just like batteries will last me 7 to 10 years maybe, then I'll have to replace them, or I just won't have battery power at night. you know, like there's this, you know, but I built something that's like very, very energy efficient, from the hurricane windows to the insulation to the whole thing. So I think that like if you can put yourself in a spot where you're moving towards that direction, even if you can't, like even myself included, won't be able to get there, not this year, but like I am working towards that end goal at some point here in the 20s. I think having control of your own energy production, like that's a major flex in my opinion. And then the last final point that I wrote down this morning, where I thought was just super important: become a speculator. I think that this period of time is going to be like lend itself to people who can look at the craziness that's going on and like literally speculate off of it. Like my best speculation in the last couple of years has been Dogecoin. A lot of people are like, oh, it's junk, this, that. And I look at it and I'm like, the math on it is like it's really, really good. And the meme ability, the marketing of it was really, really good. And I saw it like under a penny. And that was like when, like the first time Musk had tweeted it. And I was like, there are certain laws in our society now that are kind of like, they kind of are taking an effect. Like where you have a major influencer like a Musk, someone like that who gets behind a project, it's pretty clear cut. But like that was a speculation. My biggest regret to that was I didn't go as big as I should have went when I knew what I had at the beginning. So speculating on, like, for example, one speculation I'm trying to do now is food contracts. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to mess with commodity markets, so I'm learning, I'm educating myself. I've got the paid for version of YouTube. I think everybody should get it because screw commercials and stuff like that and interruptions. Like it's like $10 a month and you can listen to it. Like you can turn your phone off and listen to video. So I'm trying to learn how to speculate on food futures contracts, because I think that they're going to rip to the moon when people figure out in October, December that like a lot of these food contracts are non-deliverable. And so I think that the pricing is going to go like crazy. Oil, like for example, I think that's going to go crazy. No oil companies are making sustaining investments into the space. So like long term, there's a lot of opportunity there. Silver gold miners, they're the cheapest in history. I'm going to a conference next month to learn how to properly invest in these companies, to meet these guys, like Keith Neumeier's and the Ross Beatty's, and like I'm going there to listen to these guys and like learn this industry, because the 70s were marked with like a real good rush in those assets, resources like oil, gold, like physical resources. They did really well in the 1970s. They also had a run from 2000 to 2011. This is the third and possibly the last bull run for these things, because we might actually move to a world that it looks more like the last 5,000 years, not the last 50 years. But I think that there's going to be a lot of spaces to speculate moving forward. I will have more on this as well, but I'm going to have a group where I'm going to talk about my speculations. You can be part of that group. I will have more videos on that. That's something I'm coming out with for July. So I think that there will be a lot of opportunity to look at what's going on and going like, well, is this going to work long term? I'm going to leave you with this. Like the math is so obvious and terrible that it seems unbelievable, but it just is what it is. For example, like the US government is $30 trillion in debt on essentially 0% interest rates. If the interest rates have to go to the inflation rate or higher than the inflation rate, just the interest payments on the previous debt will outstrip the federal budget by almost a 1.5 times. Not mentioning like paying any like W-2 government employees. Like that's not possible. You're just taking the tax receipts in, but you couldn't do it because you couldn't pay IRS agents. Like it would be a really weird situation. In addition to that, the off-balance sheet liabilities over the next 10 years, according to the Department of the Interior, is $124 trillion. So we're negative 30 trillion as a nation, but we owe 124 in like commitments. I don't think that those commitments will get paid. And so I think that there'll be lots of turmoil that'll go with that. We'll see how peaceful people are and things like that. But like ultimately the numbers and math are so bad that you're gonna have austerity, which means like at some point in the next 10 years, like you either have to sacrifice the currency or you have to sacrifice 80% of the size of the United States government. Which one are they gonna do? You know, I think that there's gonna be a lot of benefit for people that can speculate on that. And so I would encourage you to become a speculator. Anyway, my email is down below. Connect with me if you're interested in purchasing silver or gold. I would love to be able to help you out with that. and then my group. I've got this group. It'll be sometime here in July, and we'll be talking about speculation, small business, my homestead stuff that I've got going on, all these type of ideas that I can't really just put out on YouTube. Because we would get blocked and like we'd be shadow banned. I'm putting them like there in that group, and you know, it's a scalable way to have like to build like an online tribe, an online community, and who knows, maybe you know, that'll move more into like an investing club, and like maybe we'll link up and do all sorts of awesome stuff this decade. But I will see you guys down below in the comments, and until next video, see ya.